So I need to start this video by saying I'm sick. Congested, exhausted, cold medicine brain, the whole deal. But I didn't want to start the year by skipping a video, and there was absolutely no universe where I was getting dressed, sitting upright, and filming something new this week. So instead, you're getting this voiceover and some old clips of me existing in my house because that's where I am right now, existing. Barely. And honestly, that feels kind of on theme because what I want to talk about today is how deeply, profoundly bad our brains are at letting us be sick in peace. Because this sucks. Being sick sucks in general, but being sick when you have ADHD is a very specific flavor of hell that I don't think gets talked about enough. It's very real and it is very annoying because our bodies are waving a white flag, but our brains are like, but what if we just push through a little bit? What if we answered a few emails? What if we did something productive so we don't feel like garbage about ourselves later? So suddenly we're sick and guilty, which is just a brutal combination. And what makes it worse is that this is the same brain that when we're healthy will procrastinate for sport. Because when I'm feeling fine, my ADHD brain is absolutely capable of putting things off, avoiding tasks, wandering away from responsibility, and convincing me that tomorrow is a problem for tomorrow me. But the second that I am unwell, suddenly my brain becomes a productivity martyr. It's like, no, now is the time to prove our worth. Now is the time to show discipline. Now is the time to demonstrate that we're not lazy, even though my sinuses feel like they're full of concrete and my joints ache for no reason. And that contradiction messes with you because you start asking yourself questions you can't really answer. Am I resting because I need to, or am I avoiding things because that's my default? Am I listening to my body, or am I just giving up? Would a better, stronger, more disciplined version of me be pushing through this? And the worst part is, there's no clean answer. There's no checklist that tells you which category you're in. You just have to sit with the discomfort of not knowing. I think part of why this is so hard is because so many of us were trained very early that working through sickness was a virtue, that staying home was weak, that rest was something you earned after you proved you deserved it. I remember being a kid and being sent to school sick unless I was actively vomiting or had a fever that scared an adult. Headaches did not count. Exhaustion did not count. The weird foggy feeling didn't count. You learned pretty fast that being unwell was not a good enough reason to stop. So now, when our body says no, our brain doesn't trust it. We assume the body is exaggerating. We assume it's being dramatic. We assume that if we just power through, we'll be fine. And maybe sometimes that's true, but a lot of the time, it's not. A lot of the time, powering through just means dragging the illness out longer or crashing harder later or turning a few days of rest into weeks of burnout. And here is the thing that I wish I had a solution for, but I don't. I don't know how to teach an ADHD brain to tell the difference between avoidance and actual need. I don't know how to override decades of conditioning that says productivity equals worth. I don't know how to rest without mentally narrating all the things I'm not doing and all the ways I'm falling behind while I lie here trying to recover. Believe me, if I did, I would bottle that shit and sell it and retire immediately. What I do know is that being sick strips away the illusion of control in a really uncomfortable way. When you're healthy, even if things are chaotic, you can at least tell yourself that you could get it together if you really tried. You could catch up. You could fix things. Illness takes that away. Suddenly, your body is in charge and it is making decisions without consulting your planner, your goals, or your sense of urgency. And that is terrifying for brains that already feel like they're constantly on thin ice. There's also the emotional whiplash of being forced into stillness. When you're sick, you're stuck with your thoughts even more than usual. You can't distract yourself as effectively. You can't burn off anxiety with movement or busyness. And if you're anything like me, your brain uses that quiet time to bring up every fear you've been carefully managing in the background. Money stress, work stress, the sense that you're already behind and now you're even more behind. The fear that if you stop, everything will fall apart and people will forget about you and opportunities will disappear. And I want to be very honest here. Some of those fears are not made up. We live in a world where taking time off does have consequences, where missing a deadline does matter, where slowing down can feel dangerous, especially if you're already under financial pressure or building something fragile. So when people, myself included here, say things like just rest or listen to your body, it can feel dismissive. Like, okay, but who's going to deal with the fallout? Who is going to clean up the mess when I come back? That's where a lot of the internal fight comes from. It's not just that you don't want to rest, it's that resting feels risky. It feels like letting go of the wheel while the car is still moving. And if you've spent your whole life compensating, catching up, masking, and managing chaos, the idea of fully stopping can feel worse than the illness itself. I also think that there is something uniquely cruel about being sick when you're motivated. Like when you're already in a low energy, disengaged season, being sick just sort of blends in. But when you're excited about the new year, when you have plans, when you're trying to build momentum, illness feels like sabotage. It feels personal. You finally get your brain pointed in the right direction, and your body goes, actually, what if we just don't? I wish I could tell you that there is a perfect mindset shift that makes this easier. I wish I could say that once you reframe rest as productive or healing or necessary, the guilt disappears. But in my experience, it doesn't. The guilt just changes outfits. It shows up quieter, it shows up sneakier. It waits until you're a little better and then it says, okay, now you have to make up for lost time. What I can say is that fighting your body rarely ends well. I've tried ignoring sickness. I've tried working through it. I've tried pretending I was fine. And every single time that bill came due, sometimes it was worse symptoms. Sometimes it was burnout. Sometimes it was weeks of brain fog that made everything harder than if I had just stopped for a few days in the first place. That doesn't mean I'm good at resting now. I'm not, clearly. I'm making a video while sick instead of actually disconnected. But I am trying to be more honest about why this is hard instead of pretending it's some kind of personal failure. I'm trying to acknowledge that this isn't just about willpower. It's about unlearning a whole system that taught us our value comes from output, even when our bodies are begging for mercy. If you're sick right now and you're mad about it, I get it. If you're resting but your brain won't shut up, I get it. If you're pushing through, even though you know you probably shouldn't, I get that too. None of those reactions make you good or bad. They just mean you're human in a system that doesn't make space for vulnerability. I don't have a neat ending for this because real life doesn't have neat endings. I'm still sick. I'm still frustrated. Hawk is still playing with his toy in the background. And I still wish I could fix this instead of just talking about it. But maybe talking about it is part of the fix. Maybe naming the tension instead of pretending it's a personal flaw is at least a step toward something kinder. For now, I'm going to drink my tea, take my medicine, and let this be enough for today. I'm going to let my brain be mean to me and just try to brush the words aside like a mosquito in my ear. Because it's true that I won't build my empire by laying around watching heated rivalry for the 10th time, but it's also true that forcing myself to work through the haze isn't going to produce any meaningful results anyway. Today, I showed up imperfectly, and you showed up for me. And I love that for both of us. Thank you for your love and your support and your well wishes. Thank you for sitting through me talking like I have bees in my throat. I hate to say, it feels exactly how it sounds. So now I'm going to go curl up with Hawk while you push all those YouTube buttons for me and leave me a comment below to tell me what makes you feel better when you're feeling sick. I'll take any home remedy you can point me at this point because the Dayquil just isn't cutting it today. I love you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.